this is Wendy with Wendy's Dallas Kitchen. I hope you've been doing well. I thought I would feature my meat marinara sauce. I haven't really shared a recipe with you in a while, and this has always been a big hit, and I made it last week, and then friends and my husband said I needed to share this with you. So I'm glad I'm here with you again, and I hope you enjoy it. It's a light recipe, so it's a great recipe for a weeknight meal, or it can be a weekend meal, of course. But it's light and pretty simple, so it is a nice option for a weeknight meal. So thank you, and let's get started. So you'll want to have a medium onion, so one medium onion, and you chop that with a medium chop, not too fine, but definitely not large pieces. You want it to be a nice medium chop, the onion. And then you'll need four garlic cloves. So make sure you have 4 cloves of garlic, because that will go in next. Okay, so I like to prepare my chopped items, so onions, garlic, and different things. I like to prepare those first ahead of time, so that when you start making my meal, it's kind of already prepared, and you can start putting it together kind of quickly, really. So chop your onion, and then you'll have 4 garlic cloves that you want to peel. Okay, so take your chopped onion, and I'm putting that just in a bowl, set it aside. Okay. All right, and then I've already prepared 3 of the garlic cloves. So you'll just take it and cut the end, the very end of it, and then peel it. And then if you have any little spots, like a little brown spot or something, cut that off. But for the most part, that's ready to go. And you take a garlic press, okay, and you put your garlic in the garlic press. And press it. I love garlic, so it's very healthy for you. It's very good for you to use in the recipes that call for garlic. And whenever I get a chance, I try to add a little extra garlic, but that's just my preference because it is so healthy for you. So I'm using 4 garlic cloves. It'll give it flavor, but you don't have to be afraid of it making your dish spicy because it's cooked. So when you saute it, it makes it less spicy and more just flavorful. So I'm adding 4 garlic cloves. So we have that ready to go. What you'll do is you'll take your olive oil, okay, and a tablespoon, and you'll want to use about 4 tablespoons of olive oil into your pan. Okay, and that's ready to go. And then you'll turn it to a medium heat. You don't want it too high because you're going to put your beef in as well, but you want it on a medium heat so it will saute your onions. Put your onions in. Okay. And these will saute for approximately, I usually put them in for about 8 to 10 minutes, about 8 minutes, and let those saute. And then, and let those saute nicely in the pan. Now, while the onions and the garlic are sauteing, what I like to do is then go over and kind of multitask and work on the pasta. So you're kind of multitasking and getting everything done and using your time that you have. So, okay, so let your onions saute here. I was chopping in a little bit of a hurry. Okay, and coat those with the olive oil nicely. You can see. You'll nicely coat your onions and let that saute. Do a nice saute on that. And then in the meantime, we go over and I put, I would say about 4 cups of water in a pot because we're going to start the pasta. And I like to put about a teaspoon of salt into your pasta water. That will help give the pasta just a little bit of flavor. So it just kind of flavors, gives it a little salt because pasta is obviously so bland. So you'll want to do that. And then one of my tricks is that I take olive oil and I put about, I would say about a tablespoon of olive oil into your water as it's heating up. So then that's heating up. And while the onions are sauteing, you want to give them a little bit of a stir occasionally, every minute or two. Because then you're sure that all of the onions are cooking and sauteing nicely. So I really hope you give this a try because this recipe is, as I mentioned earlier, it's very healthy, it's light, and it's pretty simple and quick. So it makes for a really great weeknight meal if you're kind of wanting to make something in a hurry. It's a great option from scratch, you know. So there are a lot of meat sauces or marinara sauces these days in the jar or the can even, but usually jarred. And those really aren't. Usually they're very high in sodium, and they're just not as good, right? So they're just not as tasty and flavorful. Okay, and fresh. So that is going, and then once maybe about midway through your saute, you want to go ahead and add your garlic. Okay, so and the reason you don't put the garlic in with the onions first is because they'll cook, you know, they actually will end up overcooking. The garlic will. It can burn. So garlic can burn if you don't put it in at the right time. So about halfway through, about 4 minutes into, add your garlic, and that will saute as well in with the onions and the olive oil. And then in a moment, we're going to add our beef so that we can cook the beef with the onions and the garlic. And I like to use, my preference is 93% lean beef. I think it's much better for you than an 80% or in the 80s. So 93% lean beef is really what you should use. Obviously any beef, ground beef will work. But I like to use the 93% lean. And I also like to use organic. So when it comes to, and again, you don't have to, but when it comes to meats and vegetables and fruits, I really like to stick to organic when I can. It's healthier for you. So the sauces today and the diced tomatoes also will be organic that you'll be adding in. So it looks now like, after you stir this a little bit, and the garlic is has such a nice aroma when you're cooking it. You'll really have the aroma of the garlic with this dish, so it's really nice. Okay. Great. So that's looking good. Let it keep sauteing a few more minutes or a couple minutes, like a minute here, and we'll add the beef as well. Okay, I have the beef ready to go. Let's put the beef in. And so that's really nice beef. And again, it's 93% lean and a great option for you to use. And if you have frozen beef, if sometimes you buy beef ahead of time, you can freeze it and take it out the day before, depending on how fast your, it'll thaw for you. Sometimes I do it like a day and a half. Just because it could take a little longer to thaw. And then you just use your spatula to break up the beef so that you end up with obviously much smaller pieces, just little pieces, in with the onions and garlic that'll go into your sauce. And then mix that together. So you'll have a nice looking saute of the onions and the garlic. Hope you can see that. But you'll break up the beef, keep breaking it up into smaller little pieces. Okay. And then I'll feature the pastas that you could use. This dish is very versatile because you could use many different pastas. And you could just use your favorite, really, or your family's favorite. So I'll go over those in a second so you can see, but I'll also highlight a brand that I've been buying at the store that has been really delicious pasta. So if you can find it, it really is good. Okay, so you'll want this fully browned before you start adding any sauces, and the reason for that is, for one, we're going to add the salt and pepper and oregano. And you want to know that your beef is fully cooked before you put sauce in it, because that's important just for you to know anyway. But it's even more important that it'll brown up a little bit, and that gives it a little flavor. So again, you're on a medium heat, and you'll keep sauteing this. Okay, and while that is sauteing, I'll add the salt and the pepper and the oregano. Okay. All right. So that's cooking nicely, and you have to make sure, like I said, you really don't want large pieces of beef because it's a Meat Marinara Sauce, so it's not intended to be big pieces of meat in the dish. Okay, so I'll keep that going for a second, and then let's leave that for a minute, and then I'll put in the salt and the pepper, and you stir this so that you're getting different, the meat is cooking through, right, and browning nicely throughout. So that going. And you can turn the heat up just a little bit. If you notice it isn't browning quite yet, then you could turn up the heat a little bit. Okay. Now before I do this, the one thing I do is I take the bowl that I put the onions in, okay, and I take that bowl and I take a spoon and I push the ground beef, this mixture, kind of to one side. And then you'll see that you have a little bit of, so it's 93% lean, which means that about 7% fat. And to keep it super lean, which is nice to do, and you don't need the extra, any extra grease or anything in there, is I take some of this, and be very careful when you're doing this, obviously, but I take some of the juice off of it and put it into this bowl, because that juice primarily is just fat. So you can take the fat off of it. Okay. Okay, so now let's take the salt. All right, and you want to put, okay, it looks great. So you see how it looks then when you're, I'll have to get my mitt. It's pretty hot. You can see how it looks nicely cooked. Yeah, okay. And you don't want to overcook it, so I wouldn't cook it more than about 10 minutes, maybe even more like 7 to 10 minutes, because once that is cooked, you want to start adding your sauces, okay? So first we're going to add, the reason that you add your salt and pepper and oregano right now, rather than after you put the sauce in, is because then the flavor kind of sautés and gets into the meat, and that's really important, okay? So here we are. You take 1 tablespoon of salt, and then about a teaspoon of pepper. You don't want too much pepper, so about a teaspoon. Okay, and then the oregano. So you take your oregano, and on the oregano I add about 3 tablespoons. Well, make that 2, sorry. I'm trying to memorize this recipe. So take 2 tablespoons of oregano is perfect. Yeah, that's good. All right, and mix that together. And again, you're going to have the spices really blend nicely into the meat, which is really important. Okay? That looks fantastic. All right, delicious. Yeah, see with the spices? I'll pull this up. Then you have the beef with the spices. Looks fantastic. Okay. So you really only need to continue cooking that together for just a couple of minutes, okay? Okay. All right. Then you will add your diced tomatoes. So I drain them. Make sure you drain them just a little bit. I try to take off some of that juice first, and the reason is because it's a sauce. So that is 1 large can, so this is 28, I believe, yeah, 28 ounces of diced tomatoes. And again, I like to use the organic ones. They're delicious, right? So those are your diced tomatoes. I use Muir Blend. You can find Muir Blend, it's M-U-I-R, Muir Blend. Mix that together. I really like that brand because they make the really premium tomatoes. These are really good. So it's Muir Blend, okay, diced tomatoes. And then I take my tomato sauce. So you want 2 cans, 15 ounces. So 2 15-ounce cans of tomato sauce that you add in. And if you have a 28-ounce can at home, you could use that too. It's not going to throw anything off if you just have a large can, and instead of the 2 smaller, it's not going to throw it off. And then take your tomato paste. So on the tomato paste, you want 2 heaping tablespoons. What tomato paste does, obviously, is thickens up the sauce, and it gives it a richer tomato flavor too. So there you have it. Now at this time, we will turn on the water for the pasta. We'll get that going. And again, we have the salt and the olive oil in the pot that we're going to put the pasta in. Okay? And mix this thoroughly because we put the tomato paste in. You need to really, really mix this together nicely. Okay, so you want it thoroughly mixed in so that there aren't pieces of the tomato paste. That would be too much tomato, right? So make sure you mix it really good. Okay, great. Then what I do is I allow that to cook a little bit longer. It really will just saute, right, and simmer while you make your pasta, so that you know that the sauce is cooked through, it's all cooked together well, and it'll be very nice. And like I said, it's really light too, but you can see it's delicious. It's really good. And if you have some fresh Parmesan cheese that you can put over your pasta. That's really nice to get from the store. It can be shredded, or it can be actually sort of like well, shredded works well, or it could be the real small fine pieces. Those are nice too. The finer Parmesan cheese. I can show you what I have, and what I like to sprinkle on it. But some people like the actual shredded pieces, and you can do that too. So let's leave this. Then I will show you the grated. That's what I was trying to think of. So there's a grated Parmesan cheese that you can use. Oops, and turn this down because it's just to simmer. Okay, so you want that pretty low. Okay, and just put it on a very low simmer. Otherwise, you have tomato marinara sauce all over. Okay, so let that simmer. So here we have grated Parmesan cheese. That's nice and fine. And then you have the shredded, which are the pieces. And everybody has a preference, but those are nice to put on top of your meal, of your pasta dish. And then always serve it with a spoon, because people like to. If you're using a specific pasta like a linguine or spaghetti or tagliatelle noodle, then you'll want a spoon to eat your pasta with. Okay, so these are the pastas now that we're waiting for this, waiting on the water to boil. So we have a peceri, that's really a rigatoni. So it's a pasta that's a rigatoni style noodle. That'll work really well too, because that any pasta that has ridges in it, I don't know if you know this already, but the sauce will actually get into those grooves, those ridges, and that's why they're very nice for any sauce really, but mainly for marinara sauce. So that's more of a rigatoni noodle. Then we also have a, this is penne rigate, which is more of a, it's like a ziti. So when you had ziti pasta or ziti dish, that's what they use in that. And that's actually what I'm going to make today. So that's another one. And it also has ridges. Then one of my favorites is a papparedelle pasta, which is delicious. It's kind of like a little bit of a thinner linguine noodle, but a thicker, almost like more like an egg noodle, but it's a thicker noodle in width, but thinner, so than a linguine. But that's very good. And then there's the spinach. I found this at Trader Joe's, a linguine pasta that's actually spinach and chive. So that's linguine. Also very good. So this dish can really, you could put anything with it, and that would be nice. I would put the spinach and chive dish though with more of a pesto pasta sauce, or like a pesto or a butter olive oil, maybe with some shrimp if you like shrimp or something like that. But keep simmering this sauce. Looks great, right? So that's the sauce. Okay, and really it's done. I mean, that is it. So you just let it simmer, and then in just a couple of minutes, we're going to add the pasta to the water. I let it get where it's almost boiling, and then I add the pasta. Okay, so that's what I do. Then you boil the pasta for about 6 to 8 minutes, depending on your stove or your boil temperature, and 6 to 8 minutes. Try it. Make sure it's a little bit al dente. It should be it shouldn't be mushy, real soft. It should be a little bit al dente, and that's also nice for when you reheat a dish, because then you're not overcooking the pasta. So I would suggest that, and it's really the way pasta is supposed to be served. So that's what you do. And then you drain the pasta, obviously, and you plate it and put the marinara sauce over it, meat sauce, and then you sprinkle your Parmesan cheese or your over the top if you like that. If you don't have to. And that's really the recipe. So I'm glad that you joined me today, and I hope you do make the recipe. I'll have it on my YouTube channel too, and I'll post it on Facebook as well. But thank you so much, and have a great rest of the weekend. Thanks.